Over the last few Instagram posts and certainly in a lot of our content and other YouTube and etc., we've talked a lot about the impact of decisions that we make or environmental impacts on the microbiota. And the microbiota happens to be central to so many areas of health and wellness, as well as living longer, healthy, and what we call a health span. So there's so many implications that I've discussed about the microbiota, and we've looked at the impacts of things like plastics, dietary choices, exposures to xenotoxins or even biotoxins, etc. These are all important features of why we want to make our microbiome healthy, and yet there's even more. One of the more recent topics I want to cover is what we call the HPA axis. And what that essentially is that's a stress response. Hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis. Oftentimes we can think of it as simply how our body, how our brain responds to a stressful environment or what we call an acute stress response. So it's a very critical response, and it's something we want to keep in mind because it helps us accommodate and adjust to stressful situations and then manage these situations. So physiologically, the HPA axis has been thought about through the adrenals, through the brain, which is the hypothalamus and pituitary, and yet new data is emerging. The new one that I just read is in Cell Metabolism, very respectable journal, and there are others that have identified that our microbiota play a critical role in managing through this key HPA axis our response to stress, as well as our response to what we call circadian rhythms. We all live on a circadian rhythm, diurnal, where we're awake during the day, we have a lot of stress responses, but then we want to go to sleep. So sleep is another integral part of this dialogue that's going on between our microbiota and our brain. And in fact, what the recent research is showing, and we've seen this through other evidentiary publications, is the idea of the gut-brain axis. Not only does it modify our behavior and our cravings, but it has a lot to do with our stress as well as our moods and how well we feel throughout the day. These are all being governed not just by our conscious brain decisions, but by our microbiota. And the more recent data is showing that through the HPA axis, if you have a dysbiotic microbiome, if your microbiome has been in many ways transformed by a poor diet, transformed by some exogenous insult, could be a toxin, could be other things, and stress. If stress has altered the microbiota, this is in part controlling the HPA axis. And it's resulting in higher levels of cortisol. It's resulting in a change in the diurnal rhythms, which means you're having a hard time sleeping, you're having a hard time really getting that deep rest. And so this axis is of severe consideration for why there's another reason why we need to take care of our gut. And I said why twice, but that's okay. We really need to focus on our gut health as we are also focusing on our overall health, whether it be through sleep, whether it be through stress reduction, whether it be through making better choices in our food and our exposures. All these things take time. All of these things are a lot to really wrap your mind around, and I get that. So first and foremost, for today's discussion, I want to encourage all of you, one, to follow me on this, because we're going to get more deep dive into this. So follow me on Instagram, and I'm going to get into some long form on YouTube to help really dig down and unpack all of these data and the lifestyle changes we can make. Because a dysbiotic microbiome isn't simply interrupting your digestive, your bloating, your ability to enjoy food. It's disrupting your brain, and that's then, of course, this really horrible cyclical process of your brain is out of sorts, so your gut is out of sorts, and it's a bidirectional phenomenon. We have to take care of the gut, and then we can start to navigate future health choices, which will maintain a long-term gut health. That being said, my take-home message is make sure you take and get rid of all types of interruptions for sleep. So when you're getting ready to go to bed, turn off all the electronics, turn off lights, possibly even set some music, some soft tones, so that your brain can relax and you can start to establish that sleep pattern. But it's got to be consistent. You got to do it all the time. Take some time out of your day to erase your brain, right? A form of meditation, whether it be 20 minutes, 10 minutes even. These will start sending signals from the brain to the gut. And then, of course, all the other things we talk about, getting good bacteria, getting good microbes back into your gut will reinforce these behaviors, and it will become a more bidirectional outcome, and you'll start to notice the changes over time. That is today's, and thank you for joining me.